Hey there, everyone. This is Tom DuFore over at Big Sky Franchise Team, bringing you the next edition of our monthly series called our monthly franchise sales and marketing trends. And this is for the month of November of the year 2022. And if you're on here, I apologize for starting late. I had clicked start on the wrong Zoom meeting, and that was totally my fault. I was sitting here waiting, and I didn't see anyone on the show, and it would explain why, because I did not push start. So if you were hoping to see this and you joined and missed me, well, I'm deeply apologize for that. That was absolutely my fault. But the great news is we'll go ahead and get this show on the road. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll walk through some of this franchise and economic data that we like to talk about. So first and foremost, the one that I like to start with here is the Institute for Supply Management. They have a monthly report on called the Purchasing Managers Index, and they have one for several different industries. The first one I like to start at is manufacturing, and manufacturing has continued to fall. You can see this line here starting back in from the peak here in about March of 2021, and it's just been slowly declining. And then here in about May or June, it really started falling off, and now it's down around that 50th percentile. And at 50%, that's a manufacturing break even, economic break even line. So we're basically at a break even in manufacturing, and the overall economy is at 48.7. So to me, what this is telling us, this is a leading indicator. So we've seen this trend going downward. I was hopeful that we might start to see this leveling off, but it really isn't. I thought 2 or 3 months ago, we saw a couple months back to back where it was pretty level around that mid 50s, around 53, 54, 55%. But here we are down right around 50. And to me, what that is telling us and what it's saying to me is that, if that continues into next month, 6 months from now, a year from now, we're going to be feeling that. And some of us may very well be feeling that. But again, that's an indicator that is showing that it's trending toward that recession type of a zone. Here is the services. If you can see services. Now, services has been up. It did pop down. It says in October that the Services Purchasing Managers Index registered 54.4, a 2.3 percentage point decrease from September. And you can see this. It's still up as a whole, but we'll see. It's been around this mid 50s number kind of all year. So we'll see what this trend is. If this kind of drop is just a slowdown, we'll see what happens in the month of October, or excuse me, November, as we start to get into heavy retail sales and such. And then we have hospital PMI, and this has been zigzagging a lot of the year here. It's been up and down and up and down. So PMI, hospital purchasing manager, is at 51%. So look, bottom line is, it's what we'll see from a lot of these indicators. Some are positive, some are negative. And as we look at these, it's kind of like right in this middle point, maybe a little bit of a potential tipping point there. Let's take a look at the unemployment rate. So current unemployment rate is at 3.7%. We'll look at the last 5 years. You can see the unemployment rate here is well below 4. So just some food for thought there. Unemployment rate is still very, very low. This is the U.S. inflation rate. And here is the current year. So it was 7.7% for October. This is from tradingeconomics.com. If we look at the 5-year, you can see this continue, this very high surge, going back to the beginning of 2021. We see this rampant inflation, which is bound to happen based off of the government spending. There was just a flood into the money supply. So anytime there's an increase in money supply and demand stays relatively the same, an increase in the money supply increases demand, but supply stayed relatively low. And we had the supply that actually became more scarce because of the lockdowns and shutdowns of businesses and economies and such that really slowed production. So you have kind of these converse fact. You have an increase in money supply, an increase in demand, and a decrease in supply. It's naturally going to create this push-pull, and you've got an inflationary process. So hopefully we can start to see that declining here. Next, we're going to take a look at the survey of consumers by the University of Michigan. And let's take a look at the, we're just going to pull up the index of consumers, the consumer sentiment here. I thought I had that pulled up, but we can take a look here. So you can see this was 2 months ago or 3 months ago or so was the lowest number it had ever been in its history. Down here, consumer sentiment, and it popped back up a little bit last month, 2 months ago, and now it's come down just a smidge here for October. Let's go ahead and take a look at the small business sentiment report. So here's an interesting chart that just came out. This was released on November 9th, so 2 days ago. It says personal savings top sources expected for funding business startups. So I found this interesting. The top 3 funding sources for starting a small business currently are personal savings at 45.1%, SBA loans at 39.8%, and banks or other loan providers at 35.3%. So those are the top 3 that people are going to be using. So be thinking about that for your brand, and talking to people about 45% personal savings, about 30, almost 40% through the SBA loans, and about 35% through banks or other loan providers. And home equity line is at 22.6%. Friends and family, 20%, but those top 3 are standouts above the rest. So just things you should be talking about, thinking about, or maybe having solutions within your system. The small business or startup sentiment index report. This was a new report, blog or article that came out on November 2nd. It says the worst startup sentiment seen in 2 years, but most see conditions the same or better in 3 months. So we have more respondents agree now is still a good time for a startup. So if you look at this, we've got about, even though it's the lowest response in 2 years, we're still showing that roughly 54% of all respondents said that they agree or strongly agree that now is still a good time to start a small business. So just something to note there. And let's take a look at the most active franchise categories over the last 90 days. This is interesting to me. I always like talking about this. So we can see that home services is at 17.2% for the top category. That slowly keeps coming down. I think it was 17.8 last month we did this. Senior and healthcare is at 16.5%. It's really close to that home services now. Business services is at 13.7%. Cleaning and maintenance is at 13.4%, food and restaurant at 9.2%. So you really have these top 5, really top 4 is kind of in their own category close together, then food and restaurant, and then the other top 5, which are child-related, education, financial services, pet services, and retail. So if you fall in any of these categories, these are the top 10. That's a good thing for your business right now in terms of the most inquiries over the last 90 days. The last thing I wanted to take a look at is on October 25th, Fran Connect released a recession predictions for franchising in 2023. This was by Keith Gerson. And what he said here is that he sees a trend downward in data. So I'm going to zoom in a little so we can look at some of the data he shared and discussed. This is at Fran Connect's blog. And it says, according to Fran Connect's latest franchise sales index data, the current outlook is showing some reason for concern. Q3 2021 total leads, 314,430. Q3 2022 total leads, 195,213. Year over year change for Q3, down 119,000 or down almost 38%. And then we take a look at Q3 2021 closed deals, 3,265. Q3 2022 closed deals, 2,053. So year over year change, Q3 it was down 37% year over year for total franchises sold. On the other hand, franchisors appear to be more bullish in regards to franchise system sales, system-wide sales in the year ahead, as you can see here. So it says 33% of franchisors anticipate a sales increase by 1 to 5% in 2023. 30% of franchisor anticipate sales being up 6 to 10% in 2023. 20% anticipate their franchisees' revenues will increase by 11%. Only 6% in total believe that they will be negative between 1 and 5%, and 6% believe that they will be negative between 6 and 10%. So what does this mean? Well, when I think about the negative, this means that while franchise sales were down Q3 of 2022 to Q1 2021, the leaders of these organizations are not necessarily seeing that reflective as a long-term plan. In fact, only 12% here are saying that they believe that they're going to be negative or go down for 2023. That means roughly 88% think they're going to be about the same or grow next year. The other point of note is that this is the first Q3 was the first of 2022 was the first full summer post coronavirus summers. So you had the summer of 2020, think people were still kind of figuring out what was going on. Summer of 2021, lots of places were still unsure. Lots of places were still kind of on lockdowns or unsure shutdowns, what was happening. And by 2022 here, pretty much every place was open again. And I think people started feeling comfortable going on vacation again. So I just have a hunch because I saw it in my own community and just with our personal family, saw an uptick in just people being on vacation. I saw it within the contacts and clients that we serve and work with it as well, that this Q3, the summer for July, August, September, just saw a big slowdown in just overall client activity. And saw a lot of folks just on vacation and taking up some vacations that they were looking to do or were thinking about doing over the past few years. So with that, I would love to conclude our franchise sales, our monthly franchise sales and marketing trends report. I would say as a whole, things are trending kind of the economy. It's uncertain right now. We're seeing things trending down. We're seeing some positive signs. Inflation seems to be stabilizing or hopefully starting to come down. And we will see where things go. But as with all things at transitions that I've found over the years of doing this, during transitional periods, people are thinking about starting their own business. And so we saw that with the COVID situation, lots of new business startups, which I actually did not show our startup, new business startup here. So actually, let me go ahead and pull that up really quickly and see if I can share that to show what the new business startups looks like. And for this most recent month, it is still showing big numbers. It's still showing over 400,000 new startups for the month of October. So I think that is really interesting. This was published November 10th. So this was just published yesterday. And it's showing here that over 400,000 new business startups occurred in the US again. And actually, we see that number ticking up just a little bit. So to me, again, mixed results. What does this mean for franchising? Well, it means that you need to have a plan to be talking to prospective franchisees about how your business is going to weather this uncertain time right now. If you have a fixed location business, oftentimes it might take a year or 18 months to get things up and going. By that time, we could be well on our way in recovery and out of whatever we're in right now, or maybe trending toward. So keep that in mind for if you have a long open cycle. Just there are positives to be looking for. So identify the top 2 or 3 things for you to be talking about and addressing with your prospective buyers and adjusting your marketing message as such. For example, we have generally, just in my experience of being in franchising, tend to see economic downturns as a positive because more people tend to become unemployed or they're nervous about losing their job. And so they think, boy, I need to start a business. I need to go into business for myself, take control of my destiny, and get that moving and working again. So just some food for thought as you start thinking about what is ahead in 2023. While the Q3 franchise sales data is down, the leaders of these franchise organizations, 88% of these organizations are bullish on 2023. So it's just interesting. Again, kind of like last month and the month before and the month before, we're just kind of seeing some mixed data here. So I hope this helps and gives you some tools and information to help you as you continue to make your decisions on what's best for your business and your franchise system. Thanks for tuning in. Again, my name's Tom DuFore. I'm the founder and CEO of Big Sky Franchise Team. We hope you tune in to our regular webinar series and subscribe to our weekly podcast called Multiply Your Success at your favorite podcast service. Thanks for being here. Have a great weekend, everyone.